these days, you're gonna find something that's gonna walk right through your traps. Trust me, you don't want to find that animal.
Today we're talking about In a Violent Nature, directed by Chris Nash and starring Ry Barrett, Andrea Pavlovic, and Lori Marie Taylor. The interesting thing about this so-called horror movie is that it's not really all that scary. However, much like 2022's Skinamarink, In a Violent Nature subverts the idea of what a horror movie can do. It takes the slasher genre and completely flips the script. What if, instead of following the characters to be killed, we follow the killer instead? Chris Nash is a relatively fresh face to me, but after reviewing his credits online, he's no stranger to horror. The idea of In a Violent Nature and its execution almost feel too obvious. But what we get from him is a refined vision that says, yes, a movie from the point of view of a slasher can have some intrigue and allure to it. In fact, besides a few portions during the movie's finale, I was transfixed by what was happening on screen. What makes that last sentence so significant is that besides some excellent special effects and makeup, and thus some even better unalivings, the movie is mundane. Large swaths of the runtime are just third-person tracking shots of our killer, Johnny, wading through the vast and lush underbrush of the forest. All the hallmarks of a slasher movie are here. An undead and seemingly invincible killer awoken by some teens that trespass and steal his golden locket. Said teens are delinquent and sexually charged with meaningless dialogue. A cabin in the woods and a campground that feels just as vast as it does abandoned. These hallmarks of the movie are made immediately evident so that the more interesting aspects of the movie work. The first few things I noticed watching this were, there's no music or score, and it's almost all ambient noise. Then the forest, the sway of the trees, the way the lighting comes in and out of the brush. The forest felt like a character in and of itself. Surrounding an unnatural character with such natural beauty feels like Nash making the statement, what if a crazed serial killer is actually of the earth? That his bloodlust and mayhem is actually a rageful vengeance from the planet. We don't necessarily have a reason to want these characters dead, other than that we know Johnny had an upsetting and disturbing ending in his previous life. We understand why he is violent, and placing that within nature makes it even more disturbing. The ambient slasher quality that was being sold with the marketing and trailers of this movie really stuck out to me with how quiet everything is around Johnny. And of course it would be quiet. Nothing in this movie is ever very scary because inverting the slasher removes all the tension. All they would know is the sound of crushed leaves and grinding metal, the crunch of bones and flesh. These serial killers don't have anything to say. Their presence in the fiction is the statement. Their violent solitude is what makes them compelling, as they are narrative killing machines. These thematics are all tied up and presented with a nice bow due to the work of cinematographer Pierce Dirks, as well as the choice to film the movie in a 4:3 aspect ratio. Closing us in on Johnny's perspective makes us feel as if we're riding on the sidecar to his crazy motorcycle, but it also adds this cozy claustrophobia. I was locked in and somewhat comforted, which felt really odd in the moment because everything feels so normal to Johnny, but not the audience. At least hopefully not. Bear traps are set everywhere, and there's an implication that something is being hunted. However, after Johnny's long and arduous wake from hibernation, he manages to avoid ever becoming entangled in those traps. The more natural entities in our teenagers fall prey to those traps as they're trying to escape him. He's almost more wild animal, less supernatural, as he even makes mistakes like stepping on some twigs and announcing his presence. Johnny's energy encapsulates that of a bear mauling, unrelenting and brutal. The allusion to camp elements feels purposeful as well. Johnny's efforts to end these kids' lives is laughable at times. I cracked up watching many of these scenes because the kill designs were just so good. There's a dark humor on display that really appealed to me as a longtime slasher fan. Nash is clearly having a lot of fun behind the camera, as many of these kills are in line with those from other iconic slasher movies. While the movie brings a more grounded and naturalistic approach, its lack of real terror makes it easier to see as comedic in certain moments. Also, imagine this movie with a David Attenborough narration. That would be hilarious. After our seemingly final girl, Chris, relinquishes the golden locket, watching Johnny completely decimate Colt with about 100 axe blows to the skull, she takes off into the dark. The forest seems to consume her, the anxiety of Johnny's inevitable kill usurping the original pacing. It's all Chris now, her fear on display. And in that moment, when we think we know where this is going, Chris ends up impaling her ankle on a fallen branch. What is to be feared here is only nature and only decay. Kill or be killed. Here I was reminded a lot of the TV series Atlanta, specifically the episode titled Woods. In that episode, rapper Paperboy stumbles into a mad dream, narrowly escaping a robbery and escaping into the nearby woods. His experience is hallucinogenic, the show's creators honing in on the madness that being alone in the woods can bring out of a person. The woods cause Alfred to live through real terror, an amalgamation of his own fears and insecurities that come from the outside, unnatural music industry. He emerges scratched and beaten up like our final girl Chris, but changed. Pondering this made In a Violent Nature's finale click in a bit for me after watching it. The scene with Friday the 13th alum Lori Marie Taylor dragged. It really beat you over the head explaining the movie, and it lost me for a bit there. But this was when the real tension of the movie settled in. The coziness of the movie has disappeared as they suddenly pull over to the side of the road. Chris is losing too much blood from her wound and begins to panic. Why are we stopping? Why are we stopping? Let's go. Let's get to the hospital. And Taylor, credited only as the woman, calmly and softly explains that she needs to stop the bleeding. From Chris's perspective in the passenger seat, we see the open maw of the forest. And for a moment, you think you can see Johnny creeping through the brush. Then it cuts to black, and that striking moment salvaged the ending for me. In a Violent Nature is not a perfect film, but it is incredibly exciting. It's a fresh take on an old genre staple, and I applaud Chris Nash for taking such a big swing on something that could have easily flopped. The movie looks great, has some awesome and inventive kills, and I can't wait to see what they do with the sequel. Hopefully that sequel comes with some better writing, as that was a major hindrance for me. Johnny feels right at home with the current horror wave, and as the credits rolled, I couldn't help but think, how cool would it be if we got a Johnny vs. Terrifier movie in like 2028? It could work. Both antagonists are silent, they have varying levels of humor in their killings. I think it could be cool, though I'm still waiting on that Michael vs. Pinhead crossover first. What did you think of In a Violent Nature? Was it as boring as a nature documentary, or would you have preferred that to the actual film? Leave all the comments below, and before you go, don't forget to like and smash that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching this video and continuing to support the channel. Until next time, don't talk shit about the slow kid playing with his toys in the old fire tower. Definitely don't steal his locket, unless you know you want your mangled body used to break into a ranger station. Peace.
Buckle up.